As a freelancer, I've found that quite a lot of the work I've done for my design clients is setting up social media posts and templates for them to edit themselves in Figma. And I just thought it'd be useful for me to show you how I do this myself with a really simple, not the prettiest, just a nice simple post to design, together. Just to show you a little bit more of how to use Figma. So in the last tutorial, we took a really brief overview of all of the features of Figma. We looked at adding frames, grouping things together, adding your basic shapes, text, using the pen and pencil tool. And so today I thought it might be useful for us to apply that and just put something together. As you can see, the example on the left, nothing too fancy, something really simple to put together, just to get you a little bit more familiar with the approaches and the tools within Figma. So let's not waffle on as I always do. We're going to get straight into it. So what I want you to do is I'm going to delete this new frame actually. It's easier for me to start completely from the beginning. What I want you to all to do is to press the F key or just come up here to your toolbar at the top and just click on this icon here. It looks a little bit like a hashtag. That's the frame tool. So what we've done here is we've told Figma that we want to set up a new frame, so something to contain our design. On the right hand side, I'm going to make this an Instagram post, so a nice 1080 by 1080 square. That's in pixels. So we're going to click on Instagram post and now we have this frame to work with. So frames contain things much like groups. So if you've used PowerPoint or anything, in the Office suite before, where you select multiple objects and press Control G and group them, frames are quite similar. They go a bit further in that you can have a background specifically applied to that group if you like. You can layer things and align things within that frame and then export that frame with a background as a kind of final piece. The frames are designed to be the container for your work. So if you're designing something for an app or a mobile phone, if you click F, you'll see up here on the top right hand side it says phone. So you can select which model and which device you want to work with and then put your design within that frame. And you know that what you've designed will perfectly fit within an iPhone 14 screen, for example. So anyway, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do, now we've got our frame set up, is start by using the pen tool to get this kind of curved background effect. So what I've done is pressing P or coming up here and selecting this tool here, the pen tool. I've just started slightly off canvas, and what I'm going to do is click and drag to the right. Okay, so just sort of past halfway into the post. And what that's done is that's told my curve to start bending a little bit. So if I just undo that, if I just click, you'll see I get a straight line. What I'm doing is I'm just saying I want the pen tool to kind of make the bend go this way first. And then do you see how it kind of curves? So just a quick click and drag on that first point just tells it you want it to sort of head in that direction. It's a little bit like a spline. If you've ever used a spline tool before, just click and drag, get that curve going rather than just a straight line. And I'm going to click up here. Again, click and drag, just gives us complete control. This might help you sort of see what this tool does. So we get this sort of curve effect. What I'm going to do now is just, because as you can see, it's still wanting to continue this curve. I'm just going to click on the blue dot. Now we've got that nice straight line. And holding shift to make sure it stays straight. I'm going to come down below the post and then across to directly underneath that first point. And then when that little icon comes up, we can just square off that shape. So now we've got all 4 points. I'm going to remove the stroke and change this out for a fill. And press escape, so now I'm out of the pen tool, out of editing mode. And you can see we've got this curvy shape. So just to make it match up a little bit better with what we have over here, I'm just going to drag it up slightly higher and bring it across to the left. Now at the moment, if you just click and drag your frame, you'll see that it's completely separate because we started this shape outside of the frame. What I want to do is select the object, come over to our navigator, and you can see here it's called Vector 4. We're going to then drag this inside Instagram Post 2. Now it's contained in the frame and we'll export with that final design. So next we're going to color it. So what we want to do is, if you can't select it straight away, just click once to enter the frame and then click again to select that shape. We're going to come over to our fill and we're going to change from a solid fill over to a gradient fill. So you see these icons here, we've got solid and gradient. Let's click on gradient. And now we've got 2 points. We've got this point at the top and this point at the bottom. So we've got grey through to a transparent grey, which is quite hard to see. We're going to start, the swatches are down here already. I'm going to start with this light blue at the top and work our way down to this really, really dark blue towards the bottom. And I'm going to press close. So now that's the right color. The next thing I want to do is layer those 3 shapes that you can see on the left there. So we've got 3 curves layered on top of each other. And using opacity, we've kind of created this sort of gradual step effect where it gets sort of more and more colorful as it comes down. So the first one, I've got a 10% opacity. Now there's 2 ways to do this. You can either hit the 1 on your numpad key, or you can come, if I just reset that, you can come over to the right and you see on your layer settings underneath where it says pass through, just come to the right and it says 100%. That's your opacity. So you can manually set this to 10%. So now I'm going to hit Control or Command and D to duplicate that shape. I'm just going to drag it down slightly. Okay, this is going to look slightly different. So we now got that little bit of space between our new shape and our old shape. And I'm just going to drag this out to the right slightly, just to sort of exaggerate that curve, the difference in the curve. So you can see on the right now, we've got a little bit more of a difference in the shape. And what I'm going to do with this one is set the opacity to 20%. So numpad key 2, or again, do this manually. Finally, I'm going to duplicate this one more time, drag it down that little bit further, and again, just expanding it out. And now I'm going to press num key 0, or come over here and type in 100%. So this is our full transparency, full opacity final curve at the bottom there, just to sort of bring in that full color. So now we've kind of got that background element set in. What I'm going to do is add in our logo. So you can press Control and Shift and K, or come up to the top left and click this little arrow next to the square and come down to this place image or video button. I don't need to do this because I've already got this asset in my file, but select a logo or anything you want to use, and then we're just going to click and drag to move this into our frame. Now you see how the frame turns blue, the edges of the frame turn blue as I drag this in. That's letting you know that this is now being placed within this frame. So let's just bring that to here, and I can kind of see already that these shapes aren't quite at the right height yet. So I've just selected them all. I'm going to drag them up a little bit just to give us a bit more space. Perfect. Then I'm going to move this logo up and just position that a little bit better. So now we've got the logo in place, we've got that sort of effect in the background. The next is the text and that button. So I'm going to start with the text at the top. So post title goes here, that elaborate title I spent hours coming up with. So pressing the T, or again coming up to the top and hitting that T icon. Let's just click and drag roughly the right size, and let's type in our text. So post title goes here. My next steps, if it's not already set to the font you want, we're just going to come over here and click this and scan through and find whichever font you want. I'm fine with Pop-In, so I'm going to stick with that for now. I'm going to change the weight to bold. You might be familiar with the keyboard shortcuts, Control B or Command B. Completely fine, whichever you're more comfortable with. And then I'm going to hold Alt, and this is now going to allow me to drag the text size completely freely to about there. I think that's around the same size. And the biggest difference I can see is the line height is a lot more reduced on the left. So let's just reduce that line height, bring that title closer together. And then we're going to make the gradient match on the gradient down at the bottom, match with the title. So what I want to do is select that gradient, the full opacity gradient at the bottom. I'm going to come over here under the fill settings, and just to the left of this box, really quite far over, if you just select, now this whole thing goes blue. If you press Control C, you've now copied that effect. If you click on something and paste, it's quite easy for you to just click and copy and paste effects over. So the same thing can be done with a button, for example. If I just press F to add a new frame and drag something in roughly the right shape of our button, and then just paste, that background's going to go straight on there. So we may as well do our button next. So the biggest difference here we have is our corner radius. We're going to drag that all the way up until we've got perfectly round corners. Zooming in, I'm then going to press T for text and drag a text box in and type in button. Now our text is huge, so I'm going to size that down over here. Let's bring that down to roughly the right size. I'm just going to click this this icon here. What this means is it's going to automatically set the width based on the text. So that box is now completely the right width and height for the text that we have. And then I'm just going to drag that into the center of our frame. And you can see that that's perfectly contained within our frame. So let's align that with our text, moving it down slightly. The last thing to add is this final bit of text, this short descriptive text in the middle. This is kind of where you'd put your main call to action. So add your main call to action text. Oops, here. And now I'm going to select that. I'm going to remove that bold effect. I'm going to make it a little bit more subtle with a mid-grey. And I think just a little bit more on the line height looks good. Now we're down to alignment, because as you can see, this is a lot closer to the button than it is to the text, and it's just not very satisfying. So if we select all three and come down to the bottom right here, you can see this little icon. This is going to automatically space the items between one another. So the spacing between is now at 55 pixels. So we can come over here to the right hand panel in the design panel, and we can freely click and drag now to adjust that spacing. It's really nice. And when you've got something you want, we're just going to reframe that and reposition it. And that's pretty much it. So the only big differences I can see is the button text is bold at the moment. Let's reposition that. But that pretty much is it. That's all you really need to know in terms of getting to grips with how to use the tools that we spoke about in the last episode. This is a nice way to kind of put it together, in something that you can deliver to a client. Ultimately, if you've got someone coming to you for social media templates, if you hand them this, then this is a great way for them to say, oh, okay, I can see where I'd put in my title. They can edit it themselves and export it. And as we said last time, if you come down here, if you click your frame, so you click the frame you want to export, and come down on the right hand side of that design panel all the way at the bottom, you can see this export button. Click plus to create a new form of export. Set it to whichever format you want. So I'm going to go with JPEG. And then here you've got 1 times. You could set that to 2 times scale, 3 times, or be a bit more specific about the specific width in pixels. For example, if I was to type in 1200W, when I export that, that's now going to be 1200 pixels wide and 1200 pixels tall. Just to be completely clear there, it's not going to set the height for you. What it's going to do is set the width, and it will keep proportions. So the reason I know that this is going to be 1200 pixels high as well is because we're working with a square. So once I've set the width, it will be the same as the height. And that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions or you're a little bit lost on any of that, drop a comment, because I will definitely cover that in a future tutorial just to help you out a little bit further. But this is kind of the basics of Figma in something a bit more practical for you to follow. And this is definitely relevant for freelancers. If you're looking to start earning money online, this is a very viable product for you to work on making for clients. Okay, so a lot of people out there are struggling to grow on their social media channels. To be able to provide them with, say, 10 to 20 templates to edit, then what you've given them there is the ability to quickly make social media content in a variety of different formats. So yes, definitely relevant, an easy way to make money online. And as you can see, it didn't take long to set one up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my Figma profile, and I'm going to drop a link below. If you want to use the design files, or if you want to open this up and just have a little look around yourself, then I will put that link in the description below for you to get access to all of these beautiful assets for you to sort of play around with and have another look. But any questions, as I say, drop them below. And in the next episode, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on frames and touch on something called auto layout. So a little bit similar to how when I had all 3 of these selected, we have this spacing between that we can edit. It's a little bit similar to that, but it's a little bit more advanced. So we're going to talk about auto layout in the next episode. So until then, thank you very much, and I'll see you later.